Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing super well. So today we have another exciting video. This movie is a little lesser known, but it's definitely still like a cult classic. Today we're going to be talking about the horror and action movie You're Next. This is one of those movies that I'm so glad I went into completely blind, not knowing anything about the movie, about the actors, about anything. Now I watched this back when it came out originally, so I was probably like in middle school, high school, and it was so much fun to watch it back then, and it's even more fun to watch it now years later. Now I don't want to tease too much about it because I want you guys to be able to have the same experience if you haven't watched the movie yet. But what I will say is I love when horror movies blend like family drama into them. So you're basically forgetting that you're watching a horror movie, and this movie was just really good at doing that. But what's really crazy is that T. West is actually an actor in this movie. If you guys don't know who T. West is, he wrote and directed X, Pearl, and Maxine, just to name a few movies. And in this movie, he plays like a filmmaker. So I thought that was kind of like a funny nod, or maybe just like a coincidence. But yeah, that is what we're going to be talking about in today's video. Thank you guys so much for being here and for supporting my new channel. I appreciate you guys so much. I'm so happy you guys enjoyed When a Stranger Calls. I love that movie so much, and if you guys haven't seen my video on that, I will also have it linked down below. Now, we're not going to make any brownies today or like any type of pastry. I'm still taking like a break from sweets. Like I feel like overloaded with like tamales and all of these things that I had over the holidays, so I'm like, I need to take a break. So no treats for today, but I promise you for the next video we will definitely do something. Anyways, enough chit chatter. Let's jump right into You're Next. Okay, let's set the scene. We're in someone's house and see through a slightly open door a man and a woman having sex. They finish and the woman seems a bit annoyed as the man kisses her and rolls off of her. The woman is younger than the man. He looks to be like in his 40s, maybe even 50s, and she's definitely in her 20s. I'm gonna take a shower, the man says as he jumps up and goes into the bathroom. We hear the water running and the woman puts on some clothes and then walks around the house and through the living room. As she walks, we can kind of hear the sound of wind chimes outside. Suddenly, there's a sound of a twig breaking and the motion censored lights outside of the house turn on. The woman pauses. She turns to the window in the living room that is actually a sliding glass door. She walks towards it and she sees that the glass door has been left open. Not unlocked, but completely left open. She sticks her head out, she looks around, she looks to the left, to the right, but doesn't see anything. So she closes the door and locks it. She then moves over to a CD player and puts in a disc. The player reads disc repeat and then begins playing an instrumental kind of like jazzy upbeat song. The woman then gets a glass, puts ice in it, and fills it with orange juice. She takes a drink with her as she returns to the bedroom. Meanwhile, we see the man in the shower. His hair is still lathered up from shampoo. The woman sits on the bed drinking the juice when suddenly she gets a weird feeling and she looks over her shoulder, clearly feeling uneasy. We see that the man is done with the shower and he turns off the water and pulls back the curtain. He grabs a towel, he starts to dry off as he opens a door and walks back into the bedroom. But the woman isn't there. Her juice is though, so the man picks it up and takes a sip of it. He puts it back down and then he notices on the other side of the room something written in red paint on the window. He can't fully make out what it says, so he goes over to it. The letters are written backwards, but we can see from the other view on the other side of the window that it spells out You're Next. Suddenly he notices that on the floor in the room beyond the window, the woman is there on the ground, dead. This isn't paint. The message has been written with her blood. He looks terrified and slowly backs up. He turns around and that's when he sees a person wearing all black with a white animal mask covering their face standing there. Before the man can react, this person in the mask grabs his throat and then brings a machete above his head. The man screams and the masked person brings a machete down and his blood splashes onto the window. In the next scene, a white SUV drives on the dirt road towards a forest that has no leaves on the trees. This SUV continues driving, showing us that wherever it's going is very remote. We see the driver is Paul, a father in his 60s. In the passenger seat is his wife Audrey, who is also around his age. They're both very put together and they look extremely wealthy, like you can feel the wealth through the screen, but like not in a flashy way. Looks like Eric Harson's home. They both turn and look at a house, the one that we saw the night before with the man and the woman. In the driveway is the owner's car. Yeah, I heard he left his wife for some college student. He might be living there full time now. Oh, that's a shame, says Audrey. Well, we're so isolated up here, it might be nice to have a neighbor. I guess, Audrey replies. They continue driving and we can see that there's more forest separating the homes, so even though they do have neighbors, they're not super close. Their SUV pulls into the long driveway of an older farmhouse-styled mansion. Finally, they've arrived. They take their suitcase out of the trunk and then walk up to the house. Paul puts his key in the door to unlock it. That's funny. What? It's open. They walk into the house and look around. Well, Doesn't look like anyone's been in here. Oh, I bet the workmen left the door open the last time that they were here. I'll go get the groceries out of the car, Paul says as he goes back out. Audrey, however, remains inside the house. She kind of just wanders around, not really seeming concerned at all about the door being unlocked. She goes into the dining room and she starts taking the table covers off the table and the chairs. Now, this seems to be like their second home, or like kind of like a vacation home for them. It's a little dusty and there's blankets covering the tables, chairs, couches, etc. So they definitely haven't been here for a while. So the day progresses and it's now nighttime. We see a car driving on a secluded road. Erin sits in the passenger seat. Now she looks like she's in her 20s. She's Australian and she seems very sweet and maybe a little bit shy, definitely more on the reserved side. So your parents are pretty loaded, huh? Erin asked the driver and her boyfriend, Crispain. Now he looks a little bit older than her. He's got a bit of gray in his beard. He has like a full beard. He's also a little bit more dorky and then kind of on the sensitive side. Yeah, I guess. My dad retired from KPG last year and he got an insane severance package. Wait, KPG as in the defense contractor? He was just in the marketing. Why, is that a problem for you, babe? Having dinner with the fascists? No, it's fine. I want to meet your family. I just hope that this means there's going to be some good booze at your place, though, Erin adds. Probably not. My mom's on medication. Well, can we stop somewhere and get some? Good call, Crispain says. Meanwhile, back at the house, Audrey is sweeping up when suddenly there's a sound upstairs like the thudding of footsteps and the chandelier moves. Audrey instantly freezes. Hey, I lit the furnace, Paul says, startling Audrey. She kind of just takes a step back and she's clearly scared. Sorry, are you okay? Were you just upstairs? No, I was in the basement. Well, did you hear that just now? Audrey asked. Hear what? I heard footsteps. I think someone's in the house. Are you sure? Paul asks. We have to get out of here, she says, and she starts running. Audrey, he says, clearly not concerned, thinking that his wife is just imagining this. Audrey stops and turns to him and says, hurry up, she tells him as she's trying to get out of the house. No, okay, you go outside. I'm gonna go check the upstairs, Paul says. No, please, come outside with me, Audrey begs. It's just a creaky old house. Paul, there is someone up there, she says firmly. He sighs and he grabs some sort of bat. I'll take this with me. Are you happy? No. Okay, alright, well you just wait outside and I'll be in a minute. Paul goes upstairs and he pauses on the landing. Hello? He calls out. There's no reply. Meanwhile, Audrey waits outside alone, looking concerned. Paul goes into a bedroom slowly. He turns on the light and walks around. Suddenly, there is a thudding sound that sounds very close by to him. He's more cautious now. Maybe Audrey was right. Maybe someone is inside the house. He walks towards the sound and he puts his hand on a closet doorknob. He's about to open the door when suddenly someone appears from behind him. Paul jumps and yells out in fear, but quickly relaxes when he sees that it's his son, Crispain. You scared the shit out of me, he laughs, relieved that it was only him. Not to get off on the wrong foot here, but why is mom in the driveway crying? Crispain asks. Paul sighs and they both walk out of the room, closing the door behind them. We can hear their footsteps go downstairs, but we can see that closet door again as it slowly creaks open a little. Paul and Crispain walk outside. Hey, are you okay? Crispain and I looked in every room on the second floor. There's nobody there, Paul says to his wife, but we know that's a lie. We saw them walk straight downstairs, so they didn't actually check all of the rooms. Audrey seems a little bit embarrassed. She apologizes to Crispain and adds, you're embarrassed. No, I'm not, he hugs her. Well, you must be Erin, Paul says. They all say, nice to meet you, and then the parents walk inside. Erin and Crispain sort of joke, like they're like, wait, what was that? Like, what just happened? Why was your mom crying? Why did they think someone was in the house? They're kind of just laughing at the situation, and they also join inside. So some time passes, and Erin is in the bathroom brushing her teeth. Crispain is in the bedroom and explains that his dad bought this house to fix it up as kind of like a retirement project, but that he's sure his dad's just gonna pay some other people to work on it. Erin jumps onto the bed. Your folks seem really cool. I mean, for people with money, you're lucky. I guess, Crispain adds. You are. You don't know what most people would do to have folks like yours. Whatever that means, Crispain says as they turn off the lamps and cuddle up. So your brothers and sister get in tomorrow? Yeah, tomorrow is my parents' actual anniversary. 35 years. Can you imagine? Erin asks. Crispain explains that it's been a very long time since the whole family has been together, so it's gonna be interesting reuniting with all of his siblings. We move over to Audrey, who is walking towards the kitchen. She turns on the light, opens a fridge, and then pours herself some water and takes her pill. As she's drinking her water, we see a reflection of someone in the window wearing a white fox mask watching her from outside of her house. She doesn't notice this though, and she turns off the lights as she returns to bed. It's morning now, and Crispain is waking up. He walks downstairs and hears Erin talking with someone. He walks into the room to see her with his brother Drake and with his wife Kelly. Kelly. Drake gets up and says hi. Have you ever seen a kangaroo fight? Drake asks Erin, and then he kind of jokes like he's gonna punch and like lightly hit Crispain over and over, and Crispain clearly doesn't like this at all. So he tells his brother to stop, but then his brother acts like this is something fun that they would do in their childhood and that Crispain is overreacting. Crispain just like ignores his brother. He goes to say hi to Kelly and gives her a kiss on the cheek. Don't kiss my wife. Gross, Drake says. So we can just already tell that Drake is like that annoying sibling that is always messing with everyone. He's also very polished and put together, and so is his wife. So they just seem kind of snooty. Drake is also tall and pretty muscular. He continues to mess with Crispain by saying that he was very chubby growing up, and Crispain gets upset at this. He's like, no, I'm not chubby. My face is just round. I'm not fat. Erin tries to be sweet to Crispain to like lighten the mood while also trying to make a good impression. So this is already kind of settling the tone of how this family time is gonna go. Later on, Erin goes into the kitchen where Audrey is doing the dishes and offers help with anything. Audrey says that she's all set here in the kitchen, but then she says that she's out of milk. Could you actually go over to the neighbor's house and see if you could get some? His name is Eric. Okay, Erin says. She clearly finds this to be like an odd request, but she's eager to please her boyfriend's mom. She walks out of the house and sees Drake, Crispain, and Paul outside, so she takes a photo of them thinking that they're having like a very cute, family moment. They tell her that she should join them, but Erin explains that she's been sent to the neighbors to get some milk. Really? Crispain asks, and Erin nods and leaves. We kind of pick up through subtle looks that Drake is really liked by their dad Paul, and Crispain doesn't seem to love that, so it sort of seems like Drake is like the favorite child and Crispain is aware of that. Drake eventually goes inside to check on his wife Kelly, leaving Crispain and Paul alone. So how'd that fellowship thing turn out? Asked Paul. Oh, not good. No, I guess there were a lot of applicants this year and I haven't exactly been published recently, so well, there are people that aren't published that do get the fellowship, Paul says. He definitely isn't being like cold about this, but it seems like he's saying like you're just making up excuses, and Crispain doesn't have a reply. He was really timid in this conversation, so it's clear he feels like a bit of a disappointment to his father. Meanwhile, in the house, Kelly just got out of the shower and she's in her underwear while putting a towel on her head. Drake walks into the bedroom and then goes into the bathroom. So where did your brother even find that girl? Kelly asks while she continues to get ready. I don't know, student, former student, current student, Drake says and scoffs. Kelly doesn't really seem to like Erin because of her accent, but Drake doesn't really care about this conversation and he actually tries to undress Kelly. He's trying to get into, a sexy mood, but she's not really into it, which he seems slightly annoyed about, but he quickly gets over it and asks for some Vicodin, and she tells him that it's in her purse. Meanwhile, Erin is walking up to the neighbor's house and she can hear rock music loudly playing inside. She knocks on the door and waits. Suddenly, the CD player reads disc repeat, and the same upbeat jazz song from the night before starts playing. Hello, is anyone home? Erin calls out through the door. She didn't see that inside the house, in the living room, the neighbor is sitting on the couch, dead. Since she received no response, Erin gives up and leaves. The day progresses and now it's nighttime. A car pulls up to the house. Amy, someone shouts. Hi, Mommy, Amy says as she walks up to her mom at the door, rolling her 2 suitcases. Amy drops them to give her mom a huge hug. We can already tell from this quick interaction that they seem to have a very great relationship. Behind Amy is Tyreek, her boyfriend, who is meeting Audrey for the first time. Now, Tyreek seems nice, but he's definitely kind of like on the quieter, kind of more hippie side. And then behind them is another couple. Hi, Mom, Felix says. Now, Felix has dark hair and he's kind of handsome. He doesn't look as classy and kind of wealthy as his other sibling. I'd like you to meet Z, my girlfriend, he says. Audrey looks at Z. Now, Z is by far the most different from the rest of them because she has a pretty edgy look. She has jet black hair that's cut into a bob with bangs and like really dark eye makeup on. Plus, she's smoking a cigarette. Audrey even comments on how the name Z is pretty unique. And unlike Erin, Z doesn't seem to be trying to impress Audrey at all. She's the only new partner that hasn't said, nice to meet you, back to Audrey. So the group goes inside and Amy hugs Crispain excitedly and then turns to Erin to give her a hug. Oh my gosh, you must be Erin. You're so beautiful. Amy seems to be just like a really sweet and kind-hearted person. Erin then meets Felix and Z is also a little cold to Erin, so this is obviously her vibe. Where's my princess? Paul says. Daddy, Amy yells as she runs over to him and gives him a huge hug. The dad offers to get everyone some some wine and everyone says that they'll have some. So just to recap, because I know there's a lot of characters right now, but I'm going to put all the photos here on the screen so we can all be up to date with this family tree. So we have the parents, Paul and Audrey, their son, Drake and his wife, Kelly, their son, Crispain and his girlfriend, Erin, their son, Felix and his girlfriend, Z, and then finally their daughter, Amy and her boyfriend, Tyreek. I just want everyone to know how much it means to us that you're all here, so thank you all for coming, Audrey says, and it's clear that she really means it. Oh, she's so cute. I'm in love, Erin whispers to Crispain. So the night progresses and we see the outside of the house and there's like really eerie music that plays to remind us that this is still a horror movie. The family is sitting down for dinner and Paul is sitting at the head of the table, says great. After he finishes, Drake adds, and thanks to mom and dad for having us all here together. Crispin makes like a subtle kind of joking like exhausted face to Erin, basically saying like, oh, my brother is such a suck up. So the conversation at the dinner table begins and Drake asks Tyreek what he does and he says that he's a filmmaker. We can kind of tell that Drake is being fake nice and fake interested in this. He's kind of just doing this to bother his sister Amy and to kind of just make fun of the fact that Tyreek is like a broke filmmaker. Tyreek admits that he's only made one documentary for an underground film festival. What's an underground film festival? Do you make commercials? Like what exactly do you do? Drake asks. His brother Felix just kind of rolls his eyes at Drake, clearly knowing that he's just doing this to bother their sister Amy, who's defending her boyfriend Tyreek. Amy is starting to get a bit annoyed with Drake and clearly gets upset when Drake says that the starving artist thing just never made sense to him. Erin and Crispain are like ignoring the drama and are just kind of happily talking and joking with each other. Drake notices how happy they are and decides to turn his attention to them. Erin, are you still in school? He asks. Yes, I am. I'm in my final year. I'm finishing my master's. That's great. Good for you. Your master's for what? Kelly asks. In literature. Wow, they respond. So were you a student of Crispain's? Drake asks. I was, but I'm not anymore. Yeah, she was my TA, but we stopped because we figured that was inappropriate, Crispain adds. It's a little unprofessional, Drake quietly says before he takes a sip of wine. What? Crispain asks. Drake pretends that he doesn't know what Crispain is asking, so Crispain repeats himself and adds, you said it was unprofessional. Is there something else that you want to say to me? No, I was just agreeing with you. No, you weren't agreeing with me. Drake turns to their mom for help. What? I thought he said that it was unprofessional, so I was just agreeing with him. Now this makes Crispain even more annoyed. No, don't look at her. I'm right here. Crispain, we're having dinner, Paul warns. Well, I'm having a conversation with my brother. Crispain turns back to Drake, saying that he is in no position to be judging him. Who says I'm judging you? Drake says, getting flustered. You are with your eyes. I'm tired of it. Everyone at the table starts to get involved in this conversation and they're all like talking over each other and it's clear that these siblings just don't get along. You are so jealous of me, Drake says. Boys, do we really need to do this at the dinner table? Audrey intervenes, but everyone just keeps arguing. That's when Tyreek, who's sitting there silently, notices something. His eyes are fixated on something and he stands up. He goes over to the dining room window, but no one even notices because they're still arguing. What the fuck is that? Tyreek whispers when suddenly there's the sound of an arrow cutting through the air that breaks the glass of the window. Again, no one even notices this because of the argument, but Erin did, and she turns her head. She sees broken glass on the floor and looks at the broken window. Suddenly, Drake's eyes lock on something and he goes completely silent. Crispain keeps yelling, but he's the only one who is still yelling. We hear Tyreek gasping for air as he turns to face the table with an arrow stuck in his forehead. Audrey screams and they all stand as Tyreek falls to the ground. Amy continues screaming and screaming as the others just start frantically running around the dining room. Paul gets up and he actually falls and hurts his leg. Amy goes over to Tyreek's body, and that's when suddenly another arrow shoots through the window, hitting a chair, and that's when Kelly just screams in even more panic. Meanwhile, Erin goes over to Amy to try to help. Crispain, help me get her off of him. We have to get out of here, she says. At the other end of the room, Audrey stands in a panic in front of a window. Drake goes to move her away from the window, and that's when another arrow shoots through that window and hits him in the back. He falls to the floor in pain as Audrey screams. Erin and the others crawl underneath the table, and she grabs Audrey, telling her to get down and brings her to the floor. In fact, she tells everyone to get away from the windows and to stay down because at this point, everyone is on the ground except for Felix and Z, who just stand semi-hidden in the doorway in between the dining room and the foyer. Someone fucking do something, Kelly screams. Erin goes to call 911 and everyone pulls out their phones too, but no one has a signal. I don't understand. I had a signal today, Paul says. Dad, they must be using a jammer. They're illegal, but you can get them on the internet for like $30, Felix says. Felix, you a lowlife, Drake says. What are you calling me a lowlife for, man? I'm just trying to help the situation. No surprised you're into that sketchy shit, Drake yells as another arrow breaks through the window and hits a family photo that's on the wall. Kelly screams and panics, just losing it, saying that they're all gonna die. Erin stays calm and she tells them that they need to get focused and that they need to get Drake out of this room because again, there's literally an arrow stuck in his back, so he needs medical help. Crispain takes Drake out of the room and then Erin gives Kelly a chair to cover her and block her body from any more arrows and tells her to run out of the room, which she does. Everyone else also copies this idea. They all grab a chair and they start making their way into the foyer. Before Erin leaves the dining room, she grabs a fire poker, she grabs a chair, and she runs as another arrow flies in and hits her chair. Finally, they're all in the foyer. We have to pull this out, right? Kelly asks about the arrow in her husband's back. Erin's like, oh, okay, yes, we have to pull it out, and she instructs someone how to do it. Drake says that he needs drugs because the pain is just unbearable, and Audrey passes him Kelly's purse that has them and gives one to Drake. Meanwhile, Paul and Erin look out the small windows on the front double doors. What's going on? Everyone asks. I have no fucking idea, Paul says. Both him and Erin just don't see anyone outside. Okay, well, we need to do something. Somebody should make a run for it for the cars. Someone needs to get the car and try to go get help, Felix says. No, we can't go out there, Audrey screams. Okay, well, who's the fastest? They all ask. Crispain says that he is, but Drake says that actually no, he is the fastest, but that he has an arrow in his back so he can't run. What does your back have to do with your legs? Crispain says. How the fuck do you know it has to do with legs if you never run, you fat fuck? Drake says. I'm not fat anymore, damn it, Crispain replies. I mean, clearly this sibling rivalry isn't even over despite the chaos. Despite the fact that literally Drake has an arrow in his back, he is still bullying his brother Crispain and calling him fat. Everyone starts yelling about who the fastest is until Amy screams, I'm the fastest, you guys never give me any credit for anything. Erin tries to keep everyone calm. I mean, this whole family is entirely crazy. Look, it's not about that. Nobody needs to run. We need to stay inside. We don't know how many people are out there. Everyone kind of ignores Erin. They all think that running outside is literally the best option. Honey, we believe in you, Paul says to Amy. Amy gets up and says that she's gonna do it. She's gonna go run outside and try to get one of the cars. Erin screams no, that she shouldn't do this, and she tries to stop her, but Crispain grabs her and keeps her on the floor. Felix tells her to just go somewhere where they can make a phone call for help. Him and Z move the table that's in the middle of the entrance room so that Amy can get a good running start. Okay, we'll pull the doors open at the last second. They're not gonna be expecting her to be coming out full speed, Felix says, as he and Paul each stand ready to open a door. Amy takes off her heels and nods to them, agreeing with the plan. Now, it turns into slow-mo at this part as Amy starts running as fast as she can. Felix and their dad open the doors and she runs through them, but before she can make it outside, we hear a slice noise and Amy falls backwards and onto the ground. It goes back to regular speed as Amy's throat has been slit and is gushing blood. She lays on the carpet, grabbing her throat, and everyone just panics. What happened? Paul says. That's when we see that there was a sharp wire that was placed in front of the doorway, which has Amy's blood on it. They quickly close the doors as Audrey screams as Amy continues to bleed out. Erin just kind of stares out the window and she stares at the wire. The killers put the wire there. They knew that they were going to try and make a run for it. The family struggles to save Amy, but there's nothing that they can do. Amy takes her final breath and dies. Crispain just stares at his sister in shock. Audrey is also in shock and Paul tries to comfort her, but Amy's blood is all over the carpet. No one knows what to do. You know, some of them are just screaming and others are just standing there frozen. Erin runs upstairs and Crispain goes after her. We need to make sure that all the doors and the windows are locked, Erin tells him as she moves from room to room. He stands in the hallway kind of catching his breath like, what the heck just happened? My sister just died in 2 seconds. Now Erin, on the other hand, is in full survival mode. Okay, some places if you text 911, they get it as a voicemail. Even if you only have one bar, you can still send them a text, Erin tells him as she pulls out her phone. Those things are useless, he says. Well, I have to keep trying, Erin replies. She runs back downstairs and tells the others, okay, the second floor is clear. It should be safer than down here. They cover Amy with the sheet as Paul tries to get Audrey to stand. I'm taking her upstairs, he says. Erin goes to Drake and says that we need to take care of your shoulder, but the drugs have kicked in, and he says that he can't even feel the pain anymore. Erin assures the group, we're all gonna get out of this. We need to cover up and lock all of the windows. But Erin is the only one who runs up and does this. Everyone else is still just sitting there in shock, doing nothing. I've never seen you act like this before, Crispain says. Well, it's a unique situation. We still need someone to go outside and try to get some help, Felix adds. No, I think we should all stay in here and lock everything and wait until the police come by. In fact, we should hang a sign out an upstairs window that says like SOS or something, Erin says. Crispain agrees and tells her that he'll go get a sheet off the bed and write the message. Meanwhile, upstairs, downstairs, Paul takes Audrey to bed and puts a blanket over her. "Stay with me," she says. "I have to go check on the kids," Paul replies as he leaves and turns off the light. Audrey rolls onto her side while crying. I mean, she just saw her daughter die in such a horrific way. It's terrible. Downstairs, Z closes some of the curtains while Felix puts up a sheet over Tyreek. Erin walks into the kitchen and she grabs a knife from a table, and as she does this, she goes to close and lock the window. Meanwhile, upstairs, Audrey sobs in the dark, believing that she's alone and safe, but she isn't alone. We see a man's hand on the floor in the room crawling out from underneath the bed. The man is wearing a fox mask and he rises up next to Audrey holding a machete. Audrey still has her eyes closed because she's crying, so she doesn't notice him at first. However, she does sense something, so she slowly turns and finally sees him. She lets out a gasp as the man brings a blade down and stabs Audrey. Downstairs, Drake and Paul move an armoire, and that's when they hear Audrey scream. All the kids hear this and they just immediately run upstairs. Meanwhile, as Erin is in the kitchen still closing the windows, a hand suddenly comes through the window, breaks the glass, and grabs her hair. It's a man in a mask. She struggles for a moment and then she stabs her knife through their forearm and into the window frame. The man cries out in pain as Erin backs up. She goes to look through another drawer to find another weapon, but when she finds one and turns back to him, the man in the mask is gone. Meanwhile, Drake kicks open his parents' bedroom door where Audrey was sleeping, and he and everyone else enter the room. As soon as they enter in the room, everyone is just immediately in shock. Their mother is on the bed, covered in blood with a machete sticking out of her face. On the wall, written in her blood, are the words, "You're next." Paul just immediately screams out, "No, no, no," and he starts crying as Crispain tries to stop him from running over to her and drags him out of the room. Felix and Crispain sit their sobbing father down on the stairs and they try to comfort him. Jake looks at Crispain. Why would anyone do this? Crispain doesn't have an answer. Meanwhile, Kelly looks at the bloody message with sheer horror by herself. At this point, everyone has already left the room and gone back downstairs, but she just can't get over what happened. Kelly covers Audrey's body with a blanket and slowly looks out the window and then closes it. It seems like she knows the killer couldn't have escaped through that second floor window, and she slowly walks over to the bed and crouches down. She puts her head by the floor and looks under the bed. Suddenly, the man with the fox mask appears and Kelly screams repeatedly and then runs downstairs past all the other people. Kelly runs outside and she ducks under the wire that killed Amy. Drake follows her and he tries to duck, but the arrow in his back hits the wire. He screams out in pain and then pulls the arrow out of his back. He looks at the arrow and then he faints right there in front of the front door. Erin runs into the room and asks what happened. They can all just hear Kelly screaming again outside, and Crispain tries to run after her, but he doesn't catch up to her. Outside, we see Kelly just non-stop running and screaming for help. Then we see a man dressed in black lurking in the shadows with the bow and arrow ready to go. He calmly walks after her, hunting her. Erin and Crispain bring Drake, who is unconscious, into the house and they close the doors. She then instructs Felix to go get a rag and he goes. Z says, maybe we should try to run. I mean, Kelly made it. Maybe we can at least get to a car or something. I'll try. You guys stay here, Crispain says as Felix returns with the rat. Erin says that she'll come with him, but Crispain says that he'll go by himself, that he'll go get the car, bring it to the front door, and that they can all get in and just escape. Erin seems a little bit worried about this plan. I mean, of course, this is her boyfriend. She loves him, so she doesn't want anything bad to happen to him. But Crispain reassures her that he can do it, that he's got this. She hands him a butcher knife and he runs out. Meanwhile, Kelly has made it all the way to the neighbor's house and she hears her music playing. She can see that the man is sitting on the couch since the lights are on, and again, it's a glass door, so she can see the neighbor sitting there. So she starts knocking on the glass door, pounding on it, banging on it, begging him to let her in. But she's confused and stressed because the guy isn't moving or opening the door. So she screams for him to open the door and let her in, and that's when she sees in the reflection a white lamb mask. The man in the mask punches her in the face and she falls back, breaking through the glass door. She struggles on the floor in pain. Kelly tries to crawl away as the man in the mask holding an axe follows her. Kelly makes it around to the couch where she sees why the neighbor wasn't answering. It's because he's dead. The man in the mask then grabs Kelly and throws her onto the coffee table. He then puts his boot on Kelly's shoulder and he lines up the axe with her head. She screams as he swings the axe and hits her. The music in the CD player restarts again and the lamb mask looks down at Kelly's dead body and then He just sits on the couch. Meanwhile, Crispin has made it to a car and he stops and catches his breath. The hood of the car is popped open, so it seems like someone messed with the cars. Crispin runs back to the house and tells the others, I think it's safe to assume that the other cars are also out, but I didn't see anyone out there. Maybe Kelly, maybe she got past them. I mean, it gives us a chance. What do you mean? Paul asks. I'm going back out there. No, you're not. Yeah, I mean, I didn't see anyone. Maybe it's over. So what, you're just gonna leave the rest of us here? Felix asks. Crispin explains that they need to go get help, so he'll go to the neighbors. Erin doesn't want him to go, but he kisses her and says that it's gonna be fine. I'll come back soon, okay? He tells her. He cuts the wire hanging across the front door and then he leaves with Erin, closing the door behind him. I think it's safe to say at least one of them is already inside. You think the person who killed my wife is still in the house? Paul asks. I'd assume so, yeah. Erin then goes over to Drake and says that they need to hide him somewhere. Felix helps Erin and Zeke carry him to like a windowsill and they pull the curtains in to cover him. Erin asks what's the best room for them to all be in and Felix says they all have windows except the basement. No, the basement's a bad idea. They could just pour gas down the stairs and throw in a match, Erin says. She thinks that they should just stay there and board up the windows and that they should each carry a weapon. As she is saying this and handing them a weapon, the window next to her suddenly is smashed. She jumps and throws her hands up in fear before falling forward to the ground, dropping all of the knives and the meat smasher on the floor. Felix grabs Z and pulls her away. Now, someone dressed in all black wearing a tiger mask steps into the house through the broken window while holding an axe. Erin turns around onto her back to see the man in the mask raise the axe over his head and swing it down at her. She quickly rolls, just avoiding being hit, and keeps rolling until she's on her back again, and then she kicks the man in the balls. Hard. He bends over in pain and she instantly reaches and grabs the meat smasher from the ground and then hits him on the side of the leg by his knee. This causes him to crouch over in pain, so she hits him in the back of the head. He is still crying out in pain and bleeding, but she doesn't stop there. She hits him in the back of the head again. He drops to his knees and goes silent, but she hits him in the same spot again. Now he fully falls to the ground, completely unconscious. But Erin isn't taking any chances though, and she repeatedly hits him in the head with the meat smasher as Z and Felix just watch this happen, feeling a little bit scared and uncomfortable with how aggressive Erin is being. There's just no way that this man could still be alive, so Erin stops hitting him. She looks at the two others and they slowly walk over to her. Erin takes the man's mask off and holds his head up. He's just a regular middle-aged white guy. Anyone know this guy? Erin asks. Felix shakes his head no, although it's kind of hard to tell, he adds. Erin lets the man go and then grabs a napkin from the table and wipes down the meat smasher, trying to get the blood off. She seems very stressed and she looks over at the broken window and it's Kelly. The man in the tiger mask placed her body over the broken window before jumping inside. They all just stand there, shocked. Hey, I'm sure Crispin's fine. Crispin's a tough guy, Felix says. No, he's not, but thanks. Also, thanks for the help, by the way, she says, referring to the fight that she just had. Hey, you seem to have a handle on it. Yeah, don't worry about it. Also, where's your dad? Erin asks. Paul isn't sitting on the stairs anymore. He's upstairs now. Alone. He is walking around the upstairs hallway slowly with a knife in his hand. He enters the room, walks over to a closet door that's open just a crack, and he swiftly opens the door and pulls the string for the light hanging from the ceiling. On the closet floor are water bottles full of pee and snack wrappers, as well as a black blanket. He crouches down to inspect this and he picks up a bottle of pee and stands up. Suddenly, all the lights in the house go out. Back in the dining room, Erin turns to Felix. Where's the circuit box? I don't know, I think it's in the basement. Why don't you go look for it there? I'm gonna go upstairs and try to find my dad, he says as he and Z start to walk out of the room. We go back to Paul, who goes to another door, and as he closes it, he's startled and jumped to see someone standing there. But it's just Felix and Z. Dad, Felix shouts. Paul whispers to them. Felix, one of them was in the bedroom. They've been watching us for days while we were sleeping. This wasn't a random attack. Do you understand what I'm saying? Our family is being targeted. But he doesn't finish the sentence because suddenly the man in the fox mask appears behind him and slits his throat. Paul struggles to breathe for a moment as blood gushes all over him, and then he falls towards Felix and tries to grab onto him, but Felix doesn't hold on to him to help. Instead, he moves back in disgust and pushes his father's hand away. Paul continues to try and breathe and stumbles back into a bedroom. He walks over onto the nightstand, he knocks it over, he knocks over the lamp, and falls to the ground. Felix and Z follow him into the bedroom and they just stand there and they watch Paul die. They don't scream, they don't call for help, or even run away. They just watch. And then the man that just killed Felix's father steps in next to them and takes his hood off. Really? You had to do that right in front of me? Felix asks. The man in the fox mask takes out like a headphone and turns to Felix. What? Did you say something? Yeah, you know what? Never mind, Felix says, and he seems annoyed. Are you okay? Z questions. Yeah, I just need to get washed up. Felix walks out of the room, leaving the other two to stare down at Paul's body. Felix is now in the bathroom and he's washing the blood off of his face and he's now looking at his clean skin in the mirror. Felix and Z are a part of this. They know the killers. Meanwhile, Erin walks around the unfinished basement looking for the circuit box. Upstairs on the first floor, a man in a lamb mask walks around with a crossbow out and at the ready. So it seems like at this point we have three intruders. We have the one wearing the lamb mask, the one wearing the fox mask, and the other one wearing the wolf mask. So the man wearing the lamb mask goes over and sees the other masked man dead on the floor, the one that Erin killed. He cries. Clearly this other man was someone that he cared about. He yells out no several times and then flips the dining room table. Erin, who was walking back up the basement stairs, hears this and jumps. The man in the lamb mask picks up his crossbow again and the other guy's axe and ready to attack. Erin finds a screwdriver and picks it up, so she has that and she also has the meat smasher as a weapon. She then knocks on the basement door while hiding behind it to lure in the masked man. The man in the mask had taken it off for a moment, but when he hears Erin knocking, he looks ready for a fight and he puts the mask back on. He follows the sound and Erin looks through the eye hole and jumps back when she sees him. The man uses his axe to break down the door and Erin screams. The noise causes Drake to wake up, who again they had placed behind a window behind a curtain. Drake gets up and he walks into the room saying, "Hey," all groggy because again he had just been asleep and he's on heavy medication. So he says "hey" to the man in the mask, clearly still pretty out of it. He slowly walks over to the man, but when he realizes what's going on, that this is a dangerous killer, he starts backing up saying "whoa, whoa," and then he falls onto the floor. At the same time, Erin uses this distraction and she runs out of the basement and stabs a man in the lamb mask with a screwdriver into his back. He drops the axe and Drake grabs it. Erin stands with her meat smasher at the ready, but the man quickly gets up and he runs out of the house. Erin tries to chase after him, but she doesn't make it in time, so instead she just closes the front door behind him. Drake puts the axe down and slides down into the floor in pain. "Where's Kelly?" he asks. Erin lies and says that she doesn't know. Felix and Z hear the commotion and run downstairs. "Are you guys okay? What's going on? We heard noises, so we stayed upstairs. What happened?" Erin tells him what exactly just happened as she helps Drake stand up. "Do you think you might have killed him?" he asks. "No, he ran out the door. Was anyone upstairs?" "No, we didn't find anyone. Whoever was up there could have climbed out the window," Felix adds. "Well, is your dad okay?" "Yeah, he's fine. He just needed to lie down," Felix lies. Erin says there's tools in the basement that they can use to defend themselves because she doesn't think that they should count on them being scared off. They all head down to the basement and Erin tells them to move fast and to look for anything sharp or heavy. "Yeah, let's look for Dad's tools. There's plenty of stuff we could use there. Come on," Felix says to Drake and leads him into another room in the basement. Erin hands Z some planks of wood and they head back upstairs. "Don't take too long," she shouts to the boys. Erin and Z cover Kelly's body so that Drake won't see her. Then Erin shows Z how to hammer nails through the plank of the wood so that they can place these planks all around the window so that when the killers come inside, they will step on the nails. It's kind of giving like a little Home Alone moment. Z holds up the hammer. "Can I ask you something? How did you learn all this stuff?" "Well, I kind of had a weird childhood. I grew up on a survivalist compound. I haven't even told Crispain that yet," Erin says as she hammers. She explains that her dad thought that the world was gonna run out of resources and that a group of them decided to plan for that and to take care of each other. So she didn't move to the United States until she was 15 with her mom. "Wow, that's crazy," Z says. Meanwhile, in the basement, Drake and Felix are collecting tools. Drake says enough, that he needs to go out and that he needs to look for their brother Crispain and for his wife Kelly. "Wait, what do you mean go look for them?" "Kelly's dead," Felix says. Drake looks shocked and he starts to break down and cry. Her body's up there on the floor right now. Drake, I'm so sorry. Shut up, Felix, he screams. Shut up, stop talking. Suddenly, there's a sound of a slice and flesh being cut. Felix has stabbed his brother Drake in the stomach. I'm sorry, he says as Drake looks at him confused. Felix then takes another tool and stabs him again. Then he continues to stab him with different tools. Would you just die already? This is hard enough for me, Felix yells. Drake looks at the 6 tools stabbed into him and then he falls onto the floor dead. Felix wipes the blood off of his hand and then grabs Drake's feet and starts pulling him away. Meanwhile, upstairs, Z picks up one of the boards with nails sticking out of it and she lifts it over her head, planning to hit Erin with it when suddenly Erin turns around and Z quickly just hides the plank. Finish that one? Asks Erin. Z says as she hands it to her. Erin says that she's gonna go check on the dad upstairs and Z says that she can go do it instead. I mean, Z knows that the dad is dead, so she can't risk Erin finding this out. Well, do you want to come with me? We can go together, Erin offers. No, it's okay, I'll just do another board, Z says, and Erin slowly heads upstairs, lurking with her meat smasher at the ready. Meanwhile, Z slightly opens a front door. I'm assuming she's doing this so that the killers can avoid the nails placed under the windows and can just safely enter through the front door. As Erin slowly explores the upstairs, she sees Paul's dead body and crouches down next to him. In the corner of the room, we see a man holding a machete. Erin senses him and turns. She throws her meat smasher, which misses him, and then runs full speed out the window. She literally jumps out of the second-story window and she rolls a little when she hits the ground and she's in a lot of pain. A huge shard of glass is sticking out of her thigh. The man in the mask comes to the window to stare at her, so Erin runs for it and hides in the trees. She uses this tiny flashlight to see and she pulls the huge shard of glass out of her leg. And it was really deep in there, so Erin is in a lot of pain, but she gets it out. She notices the bloody screwdriver on the ground, so she knows that the guy is still out there. Terrified, she looks around with her tiny flashlight. She turns and the light hits the man in the lamb mask, his crossbow aimed at her. She ducks and it misses her and then she makes a run for it. She climbs as fast as she can back to the house and then she locks the door after she gets inside. She keeps going and going until she runs into a room and hides behind the curtains. She sits down and she ties a rag around her leg. Meanwhile, the man in the lamb mask comes to the broken dining room window. He sees the board with the nails sticking out of it on the floor about a foot away from the wall. Thinking that he outsmarted them, he steps down closer to the wall, but he didn't see that there was another board there and he puts his foot right through the nail. He screams out in pain and the other 3 hear this. Hey, would you mind checking on that? I believe that's what I'm paying you for, Felix says to the other man with the fox mask, now sitting on the top of his head showing his face. This guy also looks like just a typical middle-aged white guy. The guy glares at Felix and then puts his mask back on and leaves. Felix goes and sits on the bed next to his mom. He puts his hands in his face. What a fucking disaster. Z comes over and tries to comfort him. She then starts to straddle him and she starts kissing him. No, stop, I'm not really in the mood, Z. Come on, I'll make it quick, she says as she takes off her shirt. Come on, be next to your dead mom, she says. What? Why would you even say something like that? Felix exclaims. Z gets annoyed. You never want to do anything interesting. Felix is just so annoyed at the situation and he just moves her off of him and he leaves the room. Z puts on one of Audrey's rings and admires it. I mean, this girl is just truly sick in the head. She wanted to have sex next to a dead body. Meanwhile, downstairs, the man in the mask pulls his foot off the nail with the other guy's help. Felix runs downstairs and when he sees the guy take his shoe off, he tells him not to do that because of the DNA. I'll clean it up later just like the rest of this fucking mess, the man exclaims as he takes off his mask. Listen, just so we're perfectly clear, I just had to kill my own brother because you guys keep getting beat up by some girl, Felix yells, referring to Erin. And Erin is listening to this. She can hear this entire conversation from her hiding spot. She knows that Felix planned this. The man in the lamb mask stands up. You want to talk about brothers? That's my brother laying dead right there, and unlike you, I liked my brother, he says while pointing to the man that Erin killed earlier. Felix apologizes, saying that he didn't know that. Now, the lamb guy is just so angry and he's just so over this. I mean, this night has not gone to plan at all. He pushes Felix up against the wall by his throat and threatens to kill him. Felix says he'll pay him more. If he dies, he gets nothing. But if they pull this off, he'll give them $400,000, which is more than their original deal of $200,000, and he'll even throw in an extra $100,000 each. The man doesn't stop choking Felix, though. He's still very angry at this, but Felix tries to calm him down and says that once his inheritance comes through, he'll pay them. The fox guy steps in to calm the situation down and says, well, we did make it this far, man. Lamb guy turns to Felix. You two better be getting enough money to pay us. Would I be doing this if I wasn't? Felix says. Just then, Erin's phone beeps. It's a text message saying, emergency message received. Her text went through. Felix and the other two guys hear the phone ringing. I got it, the fox man says. Suddenly, Erin hears footsteps approaching her. She holds up her fist, ready to fight. The man in the mask pulls back the curtain while holding a machete, and Erin punches him in the throat. He falls to the floor, gasping for air, and Erin limps away. Get after her, Felix yells, and they all go. Erin escapes through a side door, but then jumps back into the house through the broken window in the dining room as a way of tricking them into believing that she ran out of the house and ran into the woods. Which works because Felix, Z, and the fox mask guy run out the same side door and they take off towards the woods. After a moment, the lamb mask guy comes out the same side door but notices the broken window and goes over to it. He sticks his head inside, and when he turns in the other direction, Erin is there hiding, and she stabs him in the head with a small knife. She stands in the window and watches him fall backward, dead. She walks into the basement and grabs more weapons. She sets up a trap at the front door using a string and a brick that she ties to the axe. So if anyone walks through the front door, the trap will go off and the axe will come falling down on the person. Z, Felix, and the only other masked killer left look around outside in the woods for Erin. Felix is now panicking because they can't seem to find her, and he thinks that she's made a run for it and that she's gonna bring the cops here and blow this entire plan up. The fox guy says, don't worry, she's hurt. She's not faster than us. We have to stick to the road to look for her. If you don't find her, come back here. Then he goes back into the house to check on the other guy and to make sure that Erin didn't double back there. Felix takes the guy's crossbow and he says that there's 2 shots left, so if they see her, make it count. Erin waits to see her trap work, but then suddenly hears glass crunching. She turns and sees the man in the fox mask enter through the broken window. Shit, she whispers and quickly limps to the basement, but the man sees her go in. In the basement, Erin uses a brick and breaks all of the light bulbs so that way there's no light in the basement and that he can't find her. She then takes a digital camera and she starts hooking it up to something. Meanwhile, the man is now entering the basement with his machete. He can see and hear the digital camera flashing every few seconds, but he kind of just ignores it. He walks towards the light, and as he does, he steps on the broken light bulbs, which is a good thing because now Erin can hear him when he's getting closer and closer. The flashing light is clearly starting to blind him as he gets closer. Suddenly, Erin hits him with the brick and he falls to the ground. She repeatedly hits him, just going at it, and blood goes everywhere. He's dead. After killing the final intruder, Erin goes back up to the main floor. She quietly walks around and she picks up a knife from the ground. Suddenly, an arrow breaks through a window. Erin spins and drops to the floor. Felix and Z smile, thinking that they got her. They go to the window excited to see Erin dead, but instead they shout, "What the fuck?" when they don't see her on the ground. I fucking hit her, didn't I? Ugh, get in there, Felix says. Oh my gosh, give me the crossbow, Z says as she enters. Alright, I'm right behind you, Felix says as he gives it to her. And he goes to the car and he turns off what must have been the cell phone jammer. He then picks up a small knife. Z walks around with the crossbow pointed and she steps into the kitchen, and Erin surprises her and hits the bow out of her hand. She grabs Z into a headlock as Felix runs back in. Erin grabs a pot from the stove and she throws the liquid on him. It's not even hot, you dumb bitch, she says as he steps forward. The water may not be hot, but it's still liquid, so this causes Felix to slip and fall on his back. Z tries to escape and she bites Erin's hand hard. Erin screams out in pain and then hits Z in the back of the head with the pan, causing her to fall on the ground. Felix gets up and Erin kicks the kitchen door, hitting Felix in the face with it. Z jumps up and jumps on Eric. I mean, this is basically now a fight between Erin, Z, and Felix. Z starts choking Erin, but Erin stumbles back and hits Z against the wall. Then she turns around and she starts choking her, but Felix runs over to save her and he stabs Erin in the back. She lets go of Z, who gasps for air. Erin pushes Felix off of her and she grabs the blender and she hits him in the head with the blender, breaking the glass. Felix is bleeding and he kind of just slumps down onto the ground, and Erin, thinking fast, stabs the blender into his head. But she doesn't stop there. She plugs the blender in and turns it on. He screams as blood pours down his head. Felix is dead. Z starts to get up and Erin turns to her started locking eyes with her. She pulls a knife out of her own back, turns it around, and stabs Z in the top of her head. Z is now dead too. Erin collapses to the ground, exhausted and in pain. I mean, she just took down all of the killers. She literally took down 3 masked men. She took down Z. She took down Felix. Like, this girl did it. So she's just sitting there in pain and just in silence when suddenly Felix's cell phone rings. Erin picks it up but doesn't say hello. On the other end, she hears, "Felix? Hey Felix, is it all done in there or what?" Erin looks shocked and confused, but she keeps listening. "I saw my signal come back. Is it over? Look, I know you're pissed at me for not helping out. I just told you I couldn't do it, man. I told you this might happen. I saw Mom and the blood. You know I'm a pacifist. I can't deal with the violent stuff. Come on, I can hear you breathing on the other end of the phone. Felix, it's fucking freezing out here. I'm coming inside." Erin just sits there, frozen in place. The voice belongs to Crispain, her boyfriend. Crispain enters the house through the broken dining room window. He sees this chaos. He sees all of the bodies on the floor and he looks worried. He puts the phone back to his ear. "Felix?" But Felix doesn't reply. I mean, duh, he's dead. Instead, Erin steps into the foyer, holding the phone to her ear. Crispain sighs when he sees her. "Erin, you're okay," he exclaims. Erin drops the phone and holds a knife in the other hand. "Where's Felix?" Crispain asks. "I stuck a blender in his head and killed him." "Oh, okay. I can't believe you were in on this," Erin says. "Come on, babe. You know how broke we are, right?" Crispain replies. "So you would have killed me?" No, that was never supposed to happen," Crispain explains. "Well, even if you hadn't meant to kill me, you must have known I could have accidentally died." No, you were supposed to be the witness, a person with a clean record that could attest that our family and neighbors had been murdered by unknown lunatics. We needed someone with no motive to see what happened here. Someone other than Z, obviously. But, I mean, how are we supposed to know that you were really good at killing people? Which is actually sort of weird, by the way. Had you reacted normally, my parents and my siblings would have been killed, you'd have been untouched, and we'd be rich. He goes on that at least there's a silver lining, that now he's the sole inheritor of the family's estate. He doesn't have to share this with Felix anymore. He says that they need to be logical. "Babe, now you can pay off your student loans and you can quit your bartending job and just study full time. Look, it's either I go to jail or you get $500,000 within a month." Erin is just standing there listening to this bullshit explanation and she starts to silently cry. "Hey, I love you. I promised you I'd come back, didn't I? Well, here I am," Crispain says as he approaches Erin for a hug. But no, there's no hugging here. Erin instead stabs him in the neck and Crispain drops to his knees. "Why?" he says while looking up at her. "Why the fuck not?" she says before stabbing him in the eye. Suddenly, she's shot in the shoulder. This causes her to spin and fall to the ground. Who shot her? Everyone's dead. Well, that's when we see in a window a police officer standing there with his gun out. It was him. He looks in at all the chaos while Erin gasps for air and she's still alive. The officer goes back to his car and he calls for backup immediately. He starts making his way to the front door and he reaches to pull it open, but Erin screams out, "No, don't!" But it's too late. Her trap goes off and the axe swings and hits him in the face. The end. Okay, I know that movie was intense. Erin was just like the final girl to end all final girls and I did not see that coming considering how sweet she was. Like when she jumped out of the window, I was like, okay, Erin, you're gonna do what needs to be done to survive. But also like what a twist. I didn't think this movie was going to have a twist and I wasn't really thinking too deep into who these masked guys were. I did think that Felix and Z probably had something to do with this. I mean, they were the outcasts of the family. They were talking about the cell phone jammer. So it was a little obvious that they might have played a hand in the murders, but I was not expecting Crispain to be involved. I only suspected him a little bit when he first left, Erin, his girlfriend, there all alone and was like, okay, I'll come back. I'm gonna go get help. I thought that was a little bit weird because I was like, why would he just leave his girlfriend there? But then I was like, no, maybe he wants to be a hero because his family is always making him seem like the chubby fat kid. So now he wants to like show his family that he can do this. However, watching the movie a second time around, it's pretty obvious that Crispain hates his family and would love to see them dead, which is so odd because his mom is so nice. It seems that Audrey genuinely loved her children and her family, so it's hard to understand why Crispain and Felix would be okay with killing her. I know it's because she's technically like collateral damage, and if they just kill the dad, the mom will get the inheritance, so they need to get rid of everyone. But still, I mean, it's just really, really sad. As for the dad, I mean, like, yes, it seemed like he loved his children, but he also put a lot of pressure on them to live up to his standards standards. So I feel like that could be part of the reason why Felix and Crispin were like, yeah, no, we need to get rid of dad because like he's annoying. As for Drake, I mean, he was kind of an asshole who always picked on Crispin, so I guess it makes sense that he wanted him dead. I don't know, it's just very interesting to rewatch the movie and look at the family dynamic and be like, wow, you hate your family so much that you would viciously kill them. It's crazy. As for the ending, I like that they left it open-ended. Like, is Erin going to be blamed for all of the deaths, or is she going to be able to explain what truly happened? We don't know. Overall, I really enjoyed this movie. It kept me entertained the entire time, and it's even better the second time that you watch it because you can pick up on like little facial movements and looks and things like that that kind of hint early on about what's going to happen or who the bad guys are. Now, as always, we always have to talk about things that confuse me about the movie or just like plot holes. Now, there was a confusing part with their plan. Once Felix and Drake were in the basement and Felix killed Drake, the plan was complete. All their siblings were dead, their parents were dead. I mean, no one else was supposed to die or needed to die. The masked guys didn't really need to come back to the house and finish the job, and there was no reason for the one upstairs to try and attack Erin because, again, she was not supposed to be hurt. She was supposed to be their key witness to make sure that all of the inheritance came through. And two, the masked guy wasn't brothers with the dead masked guy downstairs that Erin had killed, so he really had no reason to get like revenge on Erin. So I thought it was a little bit weird that after Drake died, they continued with this attack. I'm thinking that the masked guys were like mad that Erin had beat them up so much and had attacked them back that they were like, fuck it, like let's just kill her out of revenge and like leave the plan behind. So yeah, the job was already done. I just didn't really understand why they continued attacking Erin. I understand towards the end when they discovered that Erin heard their plan. I mean, that makes sense why they would want to get rid of her, but like still. I do wonder if Crispin was telling the truth about not wanting to hurt Erin. I don't know, but I would love to know what you guys think about this down below. If there are any other movies that you guys want me to talk about or maybe a thriller book, let me know and I will add it to my list. I am almost done reading the Housemaid series. You guys, these are the best books I've ever read. Like, I am glued to this. I'm going to miss these characters once I finish the final book. But if you guys would like me to do a video on the first Housemaid book, the second one, and then the final one, let me know because I would love to talk about that with you guys because the plot twists in those books are absolutely insane. I saw that they're turning it into a movie this year with Sydney Sweeney and Amanda Seyfried, so I'm so excited about that. But yeah, if you guys want me to bring books into this, also let me know. And yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. I hope you guys enjoyed this crazy story, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, familia!